This is why Trump was elected. They stole the election in 2020. You think they couldn't do it in 24? You think they wouldn't do it in 24? They allowed Trump to be elected because after October 7th, they knew they needed a Republican in the White House because only a Republican could deliver such a pro-Israel domestic and foreign policy. And that's exactly what we got. We got Project Esther. We got what Charlie Kirk proposed to Netanyahu in his letter to him from May, which is an Israeli defense network. We got it. This is why I told people not to vote Republican, because, again, there was this idea in 24 that it didn't matter if Trump was pro-Israel because we were going to get mass deportations. He's merely paying lip service to Miriam Adelson. He's merely paying lip service to Netanyahu. And we can deal with some compromises on that front because who really cares about Gaza? As long as Trump does mass deportations, that's an acceptable deal, they said. Well, fast forward a year, and how's that arrangement working out? They said, we're going to get mass deportations, and in exchange, they'll make some symbolic gestures towards Israel. I think it's the exact opposite. What we're getting is a serious, borderline tyrannical pro-Israel policy and gestures towards immigration restriction. It's inverted.
What Nick is really pointing to here is a sense of inversion, the feeling that the promised trade-off never actually materialized. What was sold as restraint becomes escalation, and what was supposed to be decisive action turns into symbolism. He's arguing that power didn't just drift away, it flowed exactly where it always does, while voters were left with rhetoric instead of results. And as the video continues, this frustration hardens into something darker, a broader critique of coalition politics, conditional loyalty, and who ultimately gets heard once the cameras turn off. Whether you agree with him or not, what follows is less about policy details and more about a raw perception of betrayal, influence, and the limits of electoral leverage in modern politics.
We're getting performative deportations, performative immigration raids, performative rhetoric. Trump is ranting about Somalis, but they're not being deported. He instituted a travel ban for 10 countries, for 19 countries. But what has he done for Israel? Well, he bombed Iran. He bombed the Houthis. He gave them $12 billion in aid. He shut down all the Ivy League universities. He let Larry Ellison take over TikTok. He might shut down the Netflix Warner Brothers deal. The U.S. State Department is going to review 50,000 visa holders to see if they've ever criticized Israel. Kristi Noem is more concerned about anti-Semitism than she is about illegal immigrants working on farms. So who drew the short end of the stick in this bargain, in this grand genius bargain that they said, this is how you win, this is what winning looks like? No, this is what losing looks like. This is what being cucked looks and feels like. This is what being ritualistically humiliated and screwed looks like. You dumbasses, you stupid peasants and goyim, ritualistically humiliated and screwed looks like. You dumbasses, you stupid peasants and goyim supply the votes, and the Jews supply the money. And guess who the politicians deliver for? The votes or the money? Here's the difference. The voters, they don't pay attention. The voters get jazzed up during the election because they see the culture war shit on TV. The election happens, and then TV talks about something else, and everybody goes back to their daily life. And then we get screwed. That's politics. That's why I told people, don't vote for Trump. Take your own side. Trump is taking the side of Israel. He can do that. We will take our own side and stay home. I said, don't vote for Trump unless he vows immigration moratorium and no war with Iran specifically. I said, my vote is conditional. If Trump and his relationship with Miriam Adelson is conditional on whether he annexes the West Bank or not, then our support for Trump should be conditioned upon what he will do for immigration and what he will do in the realm of foreign policy. But people didn't want to hear that. They said, we're all on a team. They said, we got to get together and we need to win. We can't let the Democrats win. We need to hold our nose and vote. We need to be a coalition. We? Does it feel like a we? When Trump in July comes out and says, if you believe in the Epstein files, I don't want your vote. You're stupid. Did that feel like a we moment? Was that a coalition? When Trump forced Marjorie Greene out of Congress because she voted for the Epstein files, did that feel like a we moment? Were we all in it together? When Trump bombed Iran and then suggested we do regime change, was that a we're all in this together moment? When Charlie Kirk got shot in the neck and Trump didn't give a fuck about it, couldn't even pretend to give a shit about it. They asked him about it and he started talking about his vanity project in the East Wing. Did that feel like a we moment when they did nothing to punish the people involved or responsible? When Trump passed a big, beautiful bill and they allocated $150 billion for border security, and Trump got on TV an hour later and said, we're not deporting anybody that works on a farm, you'll understand. Did that feel like a coalition moment? Absolutely not. You need to remember this in 2026. You need to remember this in 2028. This is what it feels like to get fucked. This is what it feels like to not have a country. This is what it feels like to not have sovereignty or independence or freedom. Larry Ellison picks up the phone, Jagoff answers. Miriam Adelson picks up the phone, he answers. Shapiro, Levin pick up the phone, they have lunch with him the next week. And you bitch on Twitter and nobody's listening. You bitch and moan on Twitter and you yell at the TV and nobody's listening. Nobody could give a shit about it. Because you'll go and vote anyway.
In this video, Nick Fuentes delivers a raw and confrontational critique of power, loyalty, and political illusion. What stands out to me is not just the anger, but the underlying argument that voters are repeatedly mobilized through fear and culture war rhetoric, only to be sidelined once real decisions are made. He portrays a system where symbolism replaces substance, where enforcement is performative, and where influence consistently follows money rather than votes. Whether one agrees with his framing or not, the message is clear and unsettling. Political participation without leverage is meaningless. To me, this video isn't ultimately about Trump, Israel, or immigration. It's about disillusionment with a political process that promises agency but delivers impotence and the psychological cost of realizing that too late.